Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. Thank you so much for joining me for tea time once again. Today, we have a little bit of focus. It's getting close to that 12 o'clock range. I love focus, it's just so good. Anyway, well, tea time. I hope you have your tea. I hope you have your coffee, something, hanging out, just relaxing with me. Maybe a drink, a hard drink wouldn't be bad. It's definitely 5 o'clock somewhere on the planet, right? Send me some rum, guys, send me some rum. Anyways, today we're gonna be talking about Canon and their EOS R. Now, we found out in a couple of videos ago, I told you about some rumors that came out about the RS, and it was actually an R5, not an RS. We got some more rumors that are just kind of solidified that, okay, that it is an R5 and not an RS. We got a bunch of information here that kind of puts a bow, puts a little ribbon on it so that it's not necessarily 100%, but it's a lot closer to being, let's say, the actual camera specs that are gonna be coming out. Also, I got some information. So let me break in here real quick. What happened was, when I put this video together yesterday, about 6 hours after, I ended up getting a press release from Canon, and guess what it was for? The Canon EOS R5. So I went ahead and I put together this video and I'm going through it, and I would say about 95% of it is still accurate. So I'm showing this video to you, and I'm gonna just jump in here every once in a while and just let you know where anything has changed. And also I'll throw on the actual press release that I got yesterday. So you'll have it, you'll be able to see it also. So hang in there, let's get back into the video. Got some information here, I think it was Canon Watch, that put out a mechanical translation of an overseas website that spoke about this specific camera, the EOS R5. And it's in here, the translation is poor. I'm gonna read it verbatim just so you can kind of hear it. Just understand it's not going to be grammatically absolutely perfect, and I'll try and break it down for you. But just to kind of highlight what is in this, if you haven't watched my last video about the EOS R5, take a look at it. Let me start out with the actual camera itself. Now, the EOS R5 is going to be like that next generation of the R, the RP, so on and so forth. The price isn't going to be cheap on this. It's going to be 45 megapixels, all right? And that keeps hitting that number over and over and over. So chances are this will be 45 megapixels. That was absolutely correct. In the press release, they did say 45 megapixels was that magic number. So that's really cool. We are seeing a new EOS R, the 5, with 45 megapixels. That's pretty nice, not bad. It gets better though, guys. It gets really, really pretty good. For sure. Also, it's almost verified, solidified, made solid that it will have in-body image stabilization. That also was verified, guys. This camera will have in-body image stabilization, which a lot of you guys have been asking for. I personally don't really care so much because I'm not vlogging out and about and I have to worry about the stabilization. So it doesn't matter to me, but a lot of you guys have been saying, you know what, if the Canon EOS R series would have had that IBIS in there, I would have bought it. Well, it has it now, guys. Now, a lot of you guys talked about IBIS and why Canon didn't put IBIS into their mirrorless product, and it really hurt them. Because there's a lot of people that absolutely love IBIS. They want in-body image stabilization, all right? Canon has been a proponent, and they have stated it many times ad nauseum that they like their stabilization in their lenses. It's a little bit more controllable for them. They just like it. Now, what they're saying that they're going to do is put IBIS into this camera, and you'll be able to mix the two together, the IS of a lens as well as the in-body image stabilization, and end up with a greater number of stops of correction. That is also 100% the case. What they stated was 5 stops using IBIS, in-body image stabilization, and up to 7 to 8 stops if you do go with a IS lens, which has the image stabilization built into it, and that body. The combination will afford you up to 8 stops of stabilization, which is pretty cool. That is verified. Okay, so you're looking at 5 stops of correction with IBIS alone. And if you use the camera with IBIS with an IS lens, you're gonna get all the way up to 7 or 8 stops of stabilization. That's pretty nice. That is very nice. So I like to see that Canon is doing that. Also, we've made solid now, or just about solid, that it will be shooting 12 FPS mechanical and 20 FPS with its electronic shutter. That was also verified, guys. You got 12 FPS mechanical, which was nice. I didn't know if they were going to be able to pull that off because, you know, you have your little flippy in there, you have your mirror whacking around in there, and you have 45 megapixels to be able to deal with, all right? So to be able to write 45 megapixels at 12 frames per second is a lot. And now we also see the camera will have 20 frames per second in the electronic mode, electronic shutter, which is a lot of data at 45 megapixels. So that's pretty good, not bad at all. Now that's really nice, because if you think about it, 12 FPS, all right, 12 frames per second on this camera is really close to what we see the 1DX Mark III, the Mark II, what they're doing at close to 16 frames per second. 12 frames mechanical is nothing to sneeze at, that's a lot. And 20 frames per second electronic is what a lot of people are doing. You're gonna see it in Sony's, you're gonna see it all over the place. So that is nice. Also, they verified that that touch bar has been nixed, and they ended up with a scroll wheel on this camera. Once again, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing, if this does all come to pass, I'm seeing a trend of Canon listening to us. That hasn't been the case for like 5 years, guys, all right? And if you're a Canon guy, you know what I mean. Now, they also said that it will have that larger battery capacity because they're going to be using the LPE6 battery. That's the same battery that you see in like a Canon EOS 5D Mark IV or something like that. It might be renewed a little bit, maybe a little update, but it will have that same form factor. And they should be interchangeable. So that is really cool. A lot of people want that extra battery life, and the EOS RP just didn't have as much as they wanted. Now, where things are just amazing here is they're stating it will have 8K 30 frames per second raw. So guys, that ended up being verified. I didn't know if that was going to be even possible, and I even state that in this video, but 8K, they're gonna be the first. Right? They fell behind with 4K, 8K, they're there. I really can't believe it. Anyways. It will also have supposedly 4K at 120 frames per second. That's still a lot. And also, of course, 4K at 60 frames per second on the video side. Now, it also has built-in 5G Wi-Fi. That is a necessity today, so you know it's gonna have that. And of course, it will be coming out, as I stated in the last video, ahead of CP+. Now, CP+, if you don't know what that is the camera and photo imaging show out of Japan. It is a major, major show. It goes on, I think February 27th is when it will be live. So being that it's going to be before that, we're gonna see this camera announcement within the next 2 weeks, all right? So it's right around the corner. And Canon has done a really good job at keeping this really locked down because there's no credible images that I've seen out there. This information is leaks and leaks and leaks. It's not that much. They've really kept it buttoned down. That's very rare. Usually this stuff is out there way beforehand. So kudos for that. Also, what they're saying is the shipping date will be in July 2020. Now, what's interesting about that, the Olympics in Japan, the 2020 Olympics go from July 24th through to August 9th, right? So what that means is this camera will be in the hands of professionals for the Olympics. Also, guys, I just found out that they will have a preview of this camera, the EOS R5, at WPPI. So I think that is like February 27th, I think, when that goes live. So before the end of this month, you'll actually be able to see this camera at WPPI. in Las Vegas. So that's pretty cool. For many years, I was shooting with Trevor Kern over at WPPI. We would cover these shows like WPPI, PPE, a lot of the different shows, and we would interview a lot of the big wigs and, you know, the companies and whatnot. We're not going to be there for this year, but I wish I was. It would be really cool to be able to hands-on this camera. So anyways, let's get back to it. All right, that is a major thing. That is big. We know that the majority of the professionals that will shoot the Olympics are going to be shooting on a camera like, you know, a Sony A9 or, for example, the brand new Canon EOS 1DX Mark III. And of course, you have the Nikon D5, D6, wherever. So those are the main cameras. Those are the meat and potatoes, the workhorses. But this getting in the hands of some of the professionals, maybe as a means of testing it out, all right? Or maybe as a means of using it for some of its video capacity. I don't know. But if they did hit that 8K mark, they would be the first to do it. Now, Canon hasn't been the first for quite some time, right? They haven't been the first since the 5D Mark II. Remember, the 5D Mark II is where it all started. That's where we saw DSLRs having video capacity built into them. I remember when it first came out, the very first 5D Mark II, some of the programs on TV, I think it was like ER or I don't know, one of the programs, they actually shot the entire episode on 5D Mark IIs to test it out, to see how it is. I was like, wow, that's amazing. That is really amazing. But it makes sense, guys, because the cameras that they use on those shows are like $250,000. All right? If they could pick up, instead of 1 or 2 or 3 of these $250,000 cameras, they could pick up like 10 of these 5D Mark IIs and have them everywhere. And that gives the editors a ton of information to be able to edit into that series, into that show. So they really like that. Did they go forward using them? No, it was kind of like a study, let's say, a test, but they did it and it worked and it looked fantastic. It really did. Once 4K hit, Canon just fell behind. Sony passed them up and so did Panasonic, right? And they were just left holding the bag, right? And nothing in the bag because Sony and Panasonic ate their lunch. Well, if they were able to hit that 8K mark now, I think that they can regain that crown of... I think that's exactly what's going to happen here, guys. If they hit that 8K mark, like they state that they are in this press release, and they do it without crippling the hell out of the camera, I think things are going to be changing really quickly in the community. I really do think that Sony, even though that they're pushing forward so hard right now, and they are in that second position, I think Canon is going to really regain a strong hold on the camera community as a whole. As of right now, many new photographers are really looking at Sony because Sony has a really good camera for the price. Their A7 Mark III has just crushed it when it comes to brand new photographers, bringing in that new blood. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these camera manufacturers. They're kind of preaching to the choir all the time, trying to get the people that already own their cameras to upgrade instead of bringing in new blood. I think this, having some innovation in it, finally might bring in some of that new blood and take away from Sony. And they have been doing, like I said, fantastic for the last 3, 4, 5 years in comparison to Nikon or Canon. So let's keep going here. Being that video people out there, the video company for the pro-ams and some of the professionals, okay? Not that the majority of the professionals like myself don't use the C series, because we do, but it would be kind of cool to have a multitude of these little cameras that are a couple of grand a piece to be able to shoot a ton of different angles, which would be nice. Now, let me read this to you real quick. Bear with me. Like I said, it sounds crazy because it is a mechanical interpretation to the overseas translation or whatever. So just listen to it and just bear with it. In the front row, there is the video, 8K, a world first in the world of consumer cameras, an unprecedented skill that would allow Canon to take back the king of video. So guys, I left this part in this video because I want to show you how we are able to get some amazing, really good leaks from from overseas all the time by simply translating the information that we get. And that's why a lot of times when you hear me talk about rumors and it's coming from all different sources, a lot of times I'm actually taking a look at Japanese sites, translating them and trying to figure out what they're saying. Because what happens is sometimes leaks happen because they put together these releases and they put them up, and instead of putting them on standby, they actually release them through WordPress or whatever. And then they become live and we get to see them. And that, I think, is what happened here. That's why we were able to get this information literally hours before Canon released it. Most likely Canon gave these people, whoever they were, the information. They cobbled together their release, what they were going to talk about, and it went live. So I just wanted to show you this because it gives you a little bit of a back end of how we get a lot of these rumors, and a lot of them end up being factual. Some of them, not so much, but there's a lot of stuff that comes through and they are dead on, and especially here with this Canon EOS R. Let's get back to it. Lost during the transition to 4K for the benefit of Panasonic and Sony. I just said that. That's exactly, absolutely the case. It says Canon does not advertise any frame rate, compression codec, etc. You'll have to wait for the launch for the announcement to learn more. The other big news is the arrival of a mechanical stabilization of the sensor, a first for Canon. This lack of stabilization is partly responsible for the poor ratings we have given to the EOS R and the EOS RP. According to some information leaks, mechanical stabilization alone would save up to 5 speeds. Basically, they're saying 5 stops. Coupled with the optical and the electronic stabilization included in certain optics, this mechanical stabilization could allow gaining up to 8 speeds. Once again, if you pair up IBIS with the IS of the lens, instead of 5 stops, you're going to end up with 7 to 8 stops of correction, which is fabulous. Then Canon announced an impressive burst of 20 frames per second in electronic shutter, as with the Sony A9, and the burst of 12 frames per second in mechanical shutter, like sports cameras from Canon and Nikon, the 1DX Mark II or a D5. I was talking about that. Obviously, it's not as fast as those cameras, but it's definitely getting close. I believe the Mark III is going to be at like 16 frames per second or something like that, but you're paying $6,500 for that camera and not a couple of grand, most likely, for this one. It says leading performance, we hope, followed by level tracking algorithms. Back to that AF we talk about all the time. Will they neuter the camera? Will they cripple the camera and take out the dual pixel AF, or will they leave it in? That is a major, major question, and it has to be in there. If they take out dual pixel at any of these 4K or 8K or whatever they're doing, it's pretty much done, all right? The nail is in the coffin. They continue by saying, let's also hope that the buffer is generous so that the sports potential is not restricted. Now, bear in mind here, it is 45 megapixels, all right? So the buffer is not going to be unlimited like we've talked about with the 1DX Mark III. That's supposed to be unlimited buffer because remember, that is a 20 megapixel or 20.1 megapixel camera, okay? This is a 45 megapixel camera. So I think they're hoping for a lot when they say generous when it comes to how much it's going to be able to cache, let's call it, buffer. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm not too sold on a really large buffer, but we'll see. And it ends by saying, eventually, the EOS R5 will have 2 memory card slots, which will change from early models limited to 1 card, sometimes even placed in the battery compartment like the EOS RP. So guys, this was not the case according to the Canon release. Their press release says it has 2 card slots. That is absolutely awesome, okay? We have IBIS and 2 card slots. That is exactly the combination that everyone has been asking for, number 1. Number 2, they've been asking for AF that actually works, your dual pixel AF throughout the gamut. 1080p, 4K, 8K, whatever, we need to have dual pixel AF. Is that the case yet? We don't know if it's going to be neutered or not. That is a possibility, and let's certainly hope not. Let's get back to it. Very interesting. What they're stating here is the very first model of this R5 is going to have one card slot. I sure as hell hope not. That will be the other thing that people will lose it on. They get IBIS and now they only have one card slot. If you're shooting the Olympics, you can't deal with one card slot. You don't get a second chance. You know, you're dealing with stuff that happens once and it happens for 1 second. There is no redos. You get it or you don't get it. So you want that backup of that second card slot. So we'll see what ends up happening with this. Now, I do like what it seems that Canon is doing here. Like I said, Canon has been so far behind the 8-ball when it comes to just their cameras in general. Ever since that 4K came out and they started putting out these neutered cameras, these crippled cameras, the Canon cripple, as we call them, it's just really been a problem, a real big problem. And by looking at these specs and by looking at what seems to be going on, this might be something amazing. They might, like they said here, get that crown back for being that video beast, like they were way back, what is it, like 8-9 years ago or whatever it is with the Canon 5D Mark II. If they can hit that 8K mark at 30 frames per second, and it is not 8K, it's actually a time lapse, because we talked about that too. Is this going to be a time lapse 8K, or are they gonna actually be able to record at 8K? Guys, 45 megapixels is a ton. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Maybe a Digix 10 can be able to do it. I really don't know. You know, these cameras are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and like I always say, heat is the bane of these cameras. Heat is a problem. And when you take 45 megapixels, right, and have to store that in 8K and be able to do it at 30 frames per second, that is a lot of data that is moving through the cameras. Now, as we saw that happen with the 1DX Mark III, they're going to have obviously the CF Express cards in there. So we're talking about high data rate cards. They might do the same thing here, so that there won't be a bottleneck in the actual writing. I think the bottleneck with this camera will most likely be the CPU in there, you know, the engine that runs the whole show. Because we know Canon does not have the best when it comes to those processing units, all right? So they're gonna have to pick it up. Maybe it is a Digix 10 that they put in here. I don't know. But anyways, I wanna know your thoughts. Does it matter to you? Are you interested in it? If you're a Canon guy, is this kind of like, wow, like it is to me? Maybe Canon is actually getting their shit straight? Or is it like, just more of the same, and we're gonna see a whole bunch of crippled Canon cameras that'll be coming out this year? You know, where it has like a crippled AF system, where it goes dual pixel AF if you shoot it like, you know, 1080p or something. You know, just ridiculous stuff like that. Or do you think that they're really gonna knock it out of the park now going forward and regain that top notch? All right, so anyways, I wanna hear from you. I wanna know what you think. So guys, if you enjoy my content, as always, please throw me a big thumbs up. That would be stellar. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you can get all my content when it becomes available, and click the bell icon so when it is available, you will be notified of it. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me. That would be awesome. Also, pick up my ebook, jcristina.com/ebook, 10 tips on making sharper images. Awesome. Good information for amateurs and pros. Good stuff. Go get it free. Once again, jcristina.com/ebook. Also, check out my tees. You guys asked me to make them. I did. It took me a year to do it, and I did. The company is Dark Moon Tees. So you can go to darkmoontees.com. Go check them out. Also, you can go to jcristina.com. You can see them on there also. Pick some up. Good stuff. I call them tees with intention. All right? Also, if you're one of these guys that are out there with a mirrorless camera, you know how dirty your sensor gets. DSLRs, their sensors get dirty, but they have a flippy thing that does block that sensor a little bit, all right? With a mirrorless camera, you take the lens off and you're sensor is exposed, so they get dirtier quicker. Well, I came up with Aurora Camera Care. Go check that out. I put together an Aurora Camera Care cleaning kit for cleaning your sensors for micro four thirds, APS-C, as well as full frame. You can see them on B&H, Amazon, or of course you can go over to my website, JCristina.com. Check them out, pick them up, clean your sensor. Don't go and have to fix your images in post-production and take that spot out of every single image when you have 500 images. All right, stop doing it. Just clean the sensor. It's just simple. It's easy. And finally, go over to community.jcristina.com. Once again, community.jcristina.com, and join our creative Discord. Awesome people over there, really smart. Get involved. It's also free. Use promo code YT20 at checkout when you go over to jcristina.com, and you're gonna get 20% off everything in your shopping cart. Once again, promo code YT20. That's it. That's the end of my shameless plug for my stuff. Like I said, this channel is about me and you. We don't have sponsors doing anything in this channel, and that's why it is unbiased as it is. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next one. Many blessings to each and every one of you. Take care.